Well, hello, friends, and thanks for joining Tomei Schnitzius and me one more time for what I think is going to be a very stimulating and interesting discussion about living with infinite abundance, which apparently is not just about money, but it's about a lot of other things in life that really reflect deeper fulfillment. We decided on this topic actually at the end of our last presentation because we began talking about synchronicities. And synchronicities happen, they seem like spontaneous, unrehearsed. Where did this come from? But in fact, they're reflections of the extent to which we use our intuition in a really appropriate way, and through the synchronicities, create more choices, more opportunities, and more abundance in our lives than we would have realized. So, infinite abundance, Tomei, we're eager to hear your perspective on that. And thanks for being here one more time.
Of course, I'm really honored to be here. So it's great to have you all with us too. Infinite abundance is quite the topic. Um, where to start with this is a little bit interesting because when we say infinite, um, it's like off into infinity and beyond. You know, you hear that in one of the movies. I can't remember. It was one of those cartoon movies. Off to
Yeah.
infinity and beyond. Um, so it gives you a sense of it just goes on and on forever. There is no end, but there is no beginning either. And so when we look at the word infinite, we can define it that way, but really the feeling of infinity is hard for any one of us because we live in a third dimensional linear uh, dimension or life. And infinite means there is no time, it just goes on. So if we try as best we can to understand that an infinite abundance or infinite possibilities mean that actually that all things are already there, and that can blow your mind. um,
Yes, it
when you
does.
look,
So,
yeah, when you look at consciousness, everything is already available to us. Anything we could ever even dream of manifesting. And when we say that, we always think, oh, okay, so I can be a billionaire tomorrow or something. That's not what we're talking about. It's there for sure, but the point is that if I truly trust in the fact that all possibility, infinite amount of abundance, which is all possibility, it's not just money, of course, is available to us. We have to do the best we can to get our minds out of the way and recognize that it's all around us, which means there is no time. There is no linear aspect of things. Like if I do this today, then that'll happen tomorrow, kind of a way of looking at things. If we understand that what's happening tomorrow is already there, it's not something we have to wait for. So this gets into the healing principle too. I think we talked about that in the last session, that there are some things about um, synchronicities and the intuitive ability to hear and to see and to touch and to feel and so on also gets into a sense of trust and hearing what our internal connection to consciousness is, the voices and the intuitive abilities. Also, it's that connection that allows us to have fun with the infinite abundance that's available to us. So once we can do the best we can to get kind of a scope, like a bubble around us, instead of it being a two-dimensional flat on the screen, but more of a third-dimensional bubble is such. And understanding that bubble goes off on into infinity, and it starts from the smallest to the greatest. We can then kind of blow ourselves out of the water and say, oh my God, everything that could ever be and has been is already in this bubble. It's already available to us. And that's hard for a third dimensional mind to comprehend. It wants to define it. You can't define it. I would suggest that you can feel it in your heart. You can't feel it in your mind because your mind defines everything. So it's all third dimensional. There's no feeling. It's very hard for us to put feelings and sensations and experiences into words because they're feelings, experience, and sensations. It's really hard to say, well, this feels like an elephant sitting on me. What does that feel like? Why? Heavy. It's really heavy. So we do the best we can to explain and share with others what the feeling that we're feeling in the moment is sensing, and we use third dimensional objects and things to try and put into place what that feeling might sense like to somebody. And if you're talking to somebody that's never doesn't even know what an elephant is, then you're out of luck. There's no way they would even know what that even means to them. Um, so, but infinite abundance basically is that when Source supposedly created all this, you call it whatever you wish, Source, the Father, energy, whatever. When the universe became, it just went. So from the smallest particle, it just kept expanding and expanding and still is. So when we look at our universe, we think we only have one universe. Well, infinite possibilities means there's multi-universes, as they say. There's millions and billions and who knows how many universes because it just keeps going. It's into infinity. There is never an end to the growth of everything. It just keeps expanding and growing and so on. So there's this scientific understanding that there is an infinite possibility of all things. And so we have a hard time seeing that though, because we are in our third dimensional, we got our computers in front of us, we got chairs and tables and all that kind of stuff. And we're living at a density that doesn't allow us to really comprehend the magnificence and the benevolence that is all around us. It's been here forever. When we shift ourselves internally, when we decide and make a choice that I'm going to go on the journey, I'm going to go inward. And I'm going to allow my heart to expand. Many of you out there, I'm sure, have done some of this work. Some might, maybe not. Some of you have done a lot of this work. And so, what you find out on your journey as you've done some of this work of going inward is that when you drop your definitions of things, it expands your experience of what was before into something else. And so when you say, well, I hate something, and you hate something based upon the program that you have, and you defined hate when you were a child because you saw hate in certain ways. And so when you experience hate, somebody hating you and judging you, it's so different because it's an internal feeling, it's a sensation that comes to you. You didn't ask for it, but it comes to you, and you can feel the person hating you. All of a sudden, it turns into a exponential experience, a feeling instead of just a definition. You can sense within your body the rejection and the judgment and so on. And it's so hard to put into words because it's energetic. It's a feeling being forced upon you, and you're feeling the difference of that. And you also can feel the different levels that might be coming at you. And as you go out into the world, you might experience, well, that's just a little bit of hate because it's not as strong as the last one. But this one, oh my God, this is like a waterfall of hate. And we still try and explain it based upon things that we've seen before to try and give people an understanding of what I'm feeling. But it still doesn't, quite grasp the moment of the infinite possibilities that are there in the feeling aspects of what's going on. So I'm trying to expand our understanding of infinite abundance. And to say that we limit ourselves in the third dimensional world, we do that by definition. We try and explain to our kids, and there's only so much money we make, and you can't spend any more than we make, and we're very limited in what we do. And well, why can't you get another job, Dad? Well, because I'm working 12 hours a day already. And yeah, but then we wouldn't have so much scarcity. We'd have more, and then we could buy more, and then of course then we got to pay for more, and then we we keep continuing limiting ourselves based upon what we go after, as opposed to simplifying ourselves and not have to have so much in our life and understand in a simple way we don't need anything anymore. We share what we have, and we live from a place of the heart, which says you can have whatever you wish, uh, as long as you stay within a understanding within your heart of not needing something. That's big. I mean, that's really big.
Yes, it
But
is.
we've been taught from day one that we need things. And we've talked about this in another podcast before. I know we have. Infinite abundance doesn't mean that I can have as many Cadillacs as I want. That's not what it means. Abundance really is the universe's way of blessing us without harm. It would never give us something that would tie us down. It would never give us a need. It would only give us something that does not harm us. And so if you sit down and pray and say, well, since there's an infinite abundance, I want to make $10,000 every day of my life. Uh, and why? What is needed there? Oh, I need to feel rich. Okay, okay, so now you've defined rich as being $10,000 a day. And I would say to you, rich in your soul, in your heart, or rich in the money that's been created in the third dimensional world, rich in relationship, rich in the amount of kids you have, rich in the amount of jobs you have, rich in the amount of dogs you own. I don't know. Define for me what that means, because you're talking in a third dimensional sense. I would say if you're rich in spirit, you can have anything from infinite abundance that you could ever possibly manifest, because spirit doesn't demand need. Spirit just wants to experience. If if I, in a third dimensional sense, pray for $10,000 a month and all of a sudden I get it, then I'm like, oh, I need more than that now. And so all of a sudden I'm going to expect to have an attachment to an outcome that I'm going to get more because I already got what I asked for. So therefore I'm going to get what I need. And that's not experiencing things. That's just attaching yourself to things. So when we are in a position to be in, let's maybe use the word non-attachment. If we can be in a position where we're not attached to our life, but we experience our life, we are more in our heart space because of that, which means we're experiencing things. We're not attaching ourselves to those things, which means that we open ourselves up to a new experience almost instantaneously. Once we've experienced one thing, there's no reason to stay with that. Our heart will say, let's open up to a new one. And so then we open up to a new one.
The the thought I've had about this, I'd love your response, is um, that abundance is really what gives you a sense and contributes to a sense of fulfillment in the expression of your soul. What is that?
I would,
And I know I'm playing with words there.
yeah, it's really difficult
trying
because
to get I'm trying to get the money factor, you know.
yeah, the experience of fulfillment then is defined. So what would be fulfillment for one person's soul is going to be different than another's. However, there is never a fulfillment in infinite abundance, ever. Because everything is experienced at the height of the experience. Now that is like, whoa. So I have never experienced an ant before, for instance. And the first thing I experience is an elephant because I've never experienced that. And like, whoa, this thing's big. And oh my gosh, it's all gray and you can feel it walking around on the ground. Wow, that's such a cool experience. And wow, thank you for letting me have this experience and so on. I'm not saying I gotta have that experience now. I gotta own an elephant farm now because I gotta have them, you know, and say, okay, let me have a new experience. Okay, let's go the opposite direction. Let's experience an ant. Whoa, this thing is so tiny, but it's so strong. Look at it, can carry all these things that are 500 times its weight, and it crawls around and it uses its feelers and all this stuff. And I have to have like a magnifying glass to watch it. And this is wow, this is so powerful. And they live in colonies. And so I'm having this experience of ants, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Okay, so now I'm going to change my house into an ant farm because I got to attach myself to ants.
Well, go ahead, please. I wasn't talking about attachment there.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is I'm not fulfilled by just having the experience of the elephant. I'm not fulfilled by having just the experience of the ant. I'm fulfilled when I experience all things. And there's no end to experiencing all things.
And I don't know that our conscious minds can even ask for, quote, all things.
Well, no, but it's like is I walk the planet here.
Yes.
I hate to say this word because I always talk about it as not being so great. The definition of a master is to walk his journey experiencing all things with no judgment. The journey of a master on this planet is to walk his journey experiencing all things with no judgment, which means there's no attachment to the things that he's experiencing. He's just experiencing the things that come his way for what they are, not good or bad, up or down. It does, you just experience as it is. And so in one lifetime, if I were to walk that way, which would be super difficult in this dimensional place, it's almost impossible. You can't do it perfectly. It's not going to happen. But if I allow myself that opportunity, if I work from my heart and not judge anything, which means the mind does not get involved in judging what the things are, my heart is open to the experience. My mind then uses the experience to do the best it can to bring me to a way of explaining it to myself, because that's what the brain is then doing. The mind is trying to use the brain to help the heart feel and sense the experience from words and from feelings and sensations and so on. And then as soon as that's over, that experience, it's gone. So remember, we talked about awareness, choice, feeling, experience, and letting go. As soon as I have done number 3 in that process, which is feeling experience, then I let it go by allowing myself to be open to a new experience, whatever that might be. And maybe in this world that we walk, walking from one town to the next, it's the same darn dirt road that I always do. So I've experienced this dirt road over and over and over again, and nothing has really changed. But something really has if I open myself to it, because the weather's different one day, the sky is different one day, the people I might meet on is one day, So yes, the road itself is not going to change very much, but the experiences around the road are going to change. So I can say my journey is my journey. However, surrounding the journey are all these experiences that can come to me as they do, unless I choose from programming to make sure they're always the same. And that's where we cut ourselves off from infinite abundance and opportunity to just one way of being in the world.
Understood.
And so, again, not easy, no question. We always get caught up in attachment to outcomes, for instance, or things have to look a certain way. And sometimes I get too uncomfortable with that. And, I like sleeping in my bed a certain way every single night. And if I don't sleep that way, then I'm a little uncomfortable for a while until I can get positioned, to do it the right way. But if I don't, then I'm not experiencing new ways to sleep in my bed. So, um, there's infinite abundance all over us in the simplest things that we have in our life to the greatest of things that we would judge in our life. I one of the things that Lisa and I did is we did the Camino. And for those who don't understand that's a journey, a pilgrimage that is in Spain and France and so on. And you can leave certain countries and go into Spain. And there's like, I can't remember how many, 7, 8 different ways to getting to the cathedral. Um, and here I go, I forget the town. My brain isn't working as well right now. But anyway, you start at one place and you walk a pilgrimage to the other place. And it's where St. John is buried. And so you go there from other locations, and it's a pilgrimage. And along the way, you stay at hostels, you walk. You can ride a bike, but you walk. And what Lisa and I did was we did the northern version. And the northern version is along the ocean and in the mountains in the north. And we pretty much walked and um, hiked 600 miles. And you carry a backpack and you stay and you meet people along the way and you stay at different homes and in different places and eat different foods. And it was phenomenal. The experience was off the charts because every day was so different and we were different each day. And so there's these these hopes, I would say, that hopefully they'll have room at the end when we get there.
Yes.
Because you don't make any reservations, you pretty much are at the whim of the little towns everywhere you went, that the hostels wouldn't be filled, and sometimes they were, and there's stories about that. and and sometimes the food is already gone, and sometimes your feet are killing you, and all kinds of things that you're not expecting. And so you have to go with the flow, and you have to recognize that this is an experience. It's experience not to sleep next to like 20 other people in the same room and half of them are snoring and you can't get sleep at night. And so truly it's an experience, and some are louder and some are softer. You learn how to put wax in your ears, so maybe you'll get some sleep that night. But everything's an experience, and you do your best to not judge it. And sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you are judging it, and you take a couple steps back and say, oh, wow, I'm not letting the experience come to me. I'm judging the experience. So infinite abundance is now leaving me, and I'm attaching myself to the way things should look. And you
Okay.
truly can feel the difference of that feeling. The feeling of openness and the feeling of judgment and closedness. When we say infinite abundance, it's open. It's completely open. When I say abundance and I don't say infinite, okay, what does that mean? Is there a limitation? Is there scarcity? Abundance. Okay, abundance. You say infinite abundance. Oh, there's enough for everybody beyond their wildest dreams. Because, Bill, if you truly believe in this, and it's not necessarily a belief of the mind, it's a belief in the heart. If I truly believe in this, then I know without any qualms at all that in consciousness, in the universe, there is infinite abundance for me. And that sounds a little selfish, but there's, if I allow myself to be open, I can have it all. I can have whatever my heart, as long as I'm not harming myself and I'm not harming others. If I stay authentic in that regards, there's possibilities beyond anything I could ever dream of in a third dimensional sense. But when we move away from this third dimensional sense and into other aspects of the universe, other dimensions, it's already there. There's no time in those other dimensions. So all of it's available to us. And so I envision that all you're doing is playing every single day because you're doing some kind of new experience and creating something new and manifesting something new. And you're like, ah, look what I created over here. And look what I created over here. And you just don't care judging how bad it is or how good. You're just playing like a little kid. And we can do it now, is the whole point. It's hard to fathom because it's not about money. It's not about what you can have. It's about experiencing what's there, which means I'm not going to attach myself to it. I can have the experience, and if I attach myself to it, then everything else drops away. If I experience something and just be with it and enjoy it or not enjoy it, whatever shows up, and say, okay, let that one go, and what's next, and so on, then life becomes fun because you never know what's coming around the corner. Nothing is set up. You're just open to it. There's your walk as a master.
I think we're too conditioned for results.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay? In order to step into this acceptance of whatever comes to me,
Yeah.
is, in a sense, what you're saying is whatever comes to me is fulfillment to me.
Yes, it is.
All right.
If you allow it to
And
be. If you allow it to be.
if you allow, yes, if you allow it to be, if you allow the experience to be a fulfilling experience. But if it's tied to, oh gosh, I only earned $9,950 this month. Okay,
Yeah. I
instead
failed.
instead of, and that's right. You know, I have failed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
failed because we put a limitation on it, a definition of what it's supposed to be.
I have increasingly been looking at just everything that's on the news, defining, the turmoil and everything that we're going through in this country, and
Sure.
how much of that, absolutely how much of that is tied to whether the US is a good country or not a good country, and this is a good corporation. Everything is how much money it makes or how financially
Mhm.
solvent it is.
Yeah.
All right. And so much of the legal system is tied to the financial system.
Of course it
That
is. Yeah.
so all the laws are about managing the money in such a
Mhm.
way, da da da, and the people factor,
Right.
the human factor is
Yes.
virtually absent in so many things.
Right. And so what they do is they put a dollar sign upon people.
Yep.
This person is only worth this, and that person is worth more. And because you've made more, you're worth more. Therefore, this other person that hasn't made any money, they're not worth anything. And we're talking, and that's the dollar sign they're putting on, but really what they're saying is more of a labeling of you're no good and they're good. And
And you should add, therefore, you deserve more influence because you
correct,
have more
correct,
money. You
correct,
have proven your worth
correct,
in the great game of life by
right.
being rich.
And if
Okay.
you take, and to take this just off center a little bit from what we're talking about, but to understand that if you were to look at the actual journey and life that these people live right now, you would see how corrupt it is. You would see how much harm they're doing to other people by making all the money they made, for instance. And nobody seems to care because, well, that's just life. Well, no, it's not just life. Every soul has the opportunity to have infinite abundance. And when you take that right away from them, you have now you're not authentic anymore. You're judge and jury of everyone in the world. I I've been saying for quite a long time, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong or anything, but I've been saying I don't want to talk to you as a transgender person or a gay person or a white person or a black person. I don't want to talk to you that way. I want to talk to you and be with you as a human being because that's what you really are. You're a human being. So your being spirit is within your framework, however you're showing up in this third dimensional life. I want to talk to that. I know we all make mistakes. I know we judge each other pretty harshly and by saying some are worse than others and so on. But when it's all said and done, everybody's done something in their life that they're not really proud of. So how about we just clean the slate and start talking to each other as human beings instead of labeling ourselves? And even ourselves, we want to label ourselves because we want to be heard. So instead of, you know, going down a road of just being open in the heart, we want to say, well, we should have a piece of the pie because I'm, I'm gay or I'm transgender or I'm white or I've been, downtrodden because all the black people in my town, they have all the jobs and I'm a white person. So I'm the one that's being downtrodden. I want to be heard. And so there's all this labeling and limitations and based upon money in a lot of ways, like you said. And it's sad to me because I really wish we could get away from that and start talking about, guys, there's an infinite abundance available to you if you work from your heart. That's a far cry. I understand, that this is difficult because, some people will look at this and say, well, that means that you're saying I should give up everything I have, or I should, you know, change, I shouldn't be married, or I should get divorced, or, I should quit the church, or I should leave my job. And no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Instead, experience those things and see if they are enlivening your heart and you're bringing your heart and your soul to what's going on. If it's not, then change, do something different, find something that really gives you a sense of purpose from your heart, not because you're supposed to be doing it. Things have to change, and they're going to, Bill, in the shift. We've talked about the shift before, and this is kind of where we're going. And it's going to be a road for a while, no question. It's going to take a while. But the infinite abundance principle, maybe we can call it, I guess. I hate to even
Yes.
use that word, but the infinite abundance principle has been here since the beginning of when everything first started. Billions of years. Infinite abundance has always been there. And what we've done in our own way on this planet and in this density is decide that there is only so much. And I better get mine, otherwise, I won't get any. And when I get it, I better hold on to it and not share it.
The in my first presentation in the series that I'm doing,
Yeah.
like this, I talk about my exposure to and encounter with Neale Donald Walsh's Conversations with God books, and how he basically and fundamentally um, reduces all of this down to three very simple propositions. Let me say, he and God in their conversation. The first one is we are all one. The second one is there's enough. And the third one, which I always say is the one written for Bill Spady, there's nothing you have to do to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're really amplifying here the one about there's enough
Yeah.
of food, resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then let's finish the sentence. If we're willing to share it.
Share it. Right. Correct.
Okay. Now, if we believe that we are all one, we would share it, but
Correct.
we don't believe we're all one. We believe
Nope.
we're all different. And
We're all
therefore,
separate.
we're all separate. And therefore, I better get mine. I mean, do it just exactly the way you said that a minute ago.
Yeah. There's a book that I had given to all you guys in a lot of the workshops and so on to share, and hopefully that a lot of you read, because a lot of these principles are in this book. It's called The Children Law of One,
Hmm.
and John Penyo put it together. And in there,
Say that again for our audience.
the Children in the Law of One
Okay, thank you.
by John Peniel, and his name is Peniel, and John is Jon.
Oh,
You
okay.
could get it. Actually, somebody I'm working with right now uh, in sessions wanted to start reading the book, and she found it and was able to order it. At one time, this book stopped publishing, and if you found a book, it was like $140 for the book. Um, Now they've published it again, and so you get it for like, I don't know, $35 or $30. But in the book, the monks in Tibet called the ego the separate, selfish self.
Mm, okay,
The separate, selfish self.
there
I
it
am
is.
better than you. I will prove it to you because I have more than you. And I will keep doing that as a self forever until I have everything.
Aha. I rule the world and etc. Yes.
And I can prove it because I'm the separate. I'm not you anymore. I am up here.
Yep.
I am selfish. I've gained all the resources I can possibly do. And I will keep doing it until there isn't anything left. Well, we kind of know the end of that story because you will be totally alone once you get to that position. And the only thing you're going to want after that is power. So, infinite abundance has the word power is nowhere to be found. The word limitation, it's nowhere to be found. Separate is nowhere to be found. Selfish is nowhere to be found because you could never, ever, it's infinite. So there's no way you could ever experience all of it. It's impossible. You can't do it. It's infinite. It'll be fun trying, but
What is it then about our paradigm of existence and the way we're raised as children
yeah.
that makes it so profoundly difficult to accept that or to view things from that perspective?
Well, ever
That
since,
it
yeah, I
sorry,
would
go ahead.
say even before even our industrial complex, even when we're, you know, I want to say, we weren't cavemen because, Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and those guys have proven that we came down here like 2 to 300,000 years ago the way we are. So we're not tied to Neanderthal really at all. Um, but even back in those days, they were hunters and gatherers. But in some respect, they started recognizing that if they would kill something for their family that they had walking around, and somebody would try to take it, they would kill the person that was trying to take it because it was theirs. So there's this like innate place within us that says what I've worked for kind of is mine.
Hmm.
And then we get into unions today and you say, well, if I work a certain number of hours, I should get more than Fred, who just came into the union and only works the same amount of hours, but I've been here longer, so I should get more. But you both do the same thing. How's that? Well, it's because I've been here longer, so I'm separate from them. Instead of an equality, I'm separate based upon my performance that is being graded by the higher ups or then separate from this this whole grading system of hierarchy, I don't know if you remember, um, in presentations we did at the workshop, and this is even for people to understand. There's going to come a time when this is going to happen, where we're going to get to pure duality, which is even another concept we've talked about a little bit, but it's almost hard to comprehend. What that means is there's no hierarchy. I presented a presentation of a place that I wanted to create, and I still do, on this planet, where people can come and work on themselves and we can serve them, but there'll be no hierarchy in this place. Everybody is the same. We all share each other. We all have hearts. We all have experiences. We all have, the infinite abundance we could ever have. And there's no hierarchy. And when I was talking about that, there were responses to the fact that there has to be. What? In the group, it was like, there has to be hierarchy. Why does there have to be hierarchy? Well, nothing will get done. So there'll be nobody telling somebody else what they have to do. So there'll be no manipulation. There'll be no people industrious over focus that are just going to be the doing. That's correct. There won't. Well, that's not going to work here. Unfortunately, it is going to work here because that's where we're going. There's not going to be any hierarchy anywhere. Yeshua tried to talk about this when he was down here. You can read many places in the Bible if you read the right Bibles, where there is no hierarchy. We're all the same. There's no separation. I'm no better than you. You have the same qualities within your heart space than I do. You believe that because you healed, right? You believe that you had the same opportunities, the same understandings that I have, and you took it so that you could heal yourself, and you did. Everybody has that. Nobody's any different. We're all the same people, all of us. There's nobody. The separation comes where the mind comes in and says that somebody is better than somebody else based upon definition, not based upon the heart, not based upon the soul. We're walking away from that. It's going to take some time, but we're walking away from that. When we start walking away from that, then infinite abundance is going to have a different meaning. And I don't mean definition meaning. I mean a meaning within the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm going to want to share. Did you see what I found in my infinite abundance?
Oh dear.
Well, look what I found. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool too. Yeah. Okay. This is really great. Look at all these things we're creating and manifesting and everything. It's like there's nothing that's any better than anything else. Because each one of us in our own heart has an infinite amount of abundance that it's almost specifically there for us in some ways, not making us separate, but because our soul experiences things differently, it looks at it differently. And so the infinite abundance seems different, but it's not. It's all the same. And this is like, this is really, really hard to comprehend. But it's there all the same. Just because you can't understand it doesn't mean it's not there. Nassim would say that, right? Just because you can't see consciousness doesn't mean it's not there. They don't want to call it God, and I understand that. I get it. They're scientists. They can't, because there's no definition for that, really. If we go down into history, there's no definition for God. They put names on it and all this sort of thing, but nobody knows what it is because they're not God. So how can you know what it is? But consciousness, we know things are being held together somehow, but you can't see it. So how can you believe in it then? Well, because we can feel, we can sense it. Oh, you can feel and sense it? Oh, so then you could feel and sense infinite abundance too. Because just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
I think we got trapped in the scientific model of if it can't be measured
Yeah.
by the measurement tools we have, the
Yeah.
measurement tools that are based on our limited five senses,
Correct.
then then see something doesn't exist because it exists outside of that paradigm.
What healed you?
You mean with the stroke healing, the one we talked
Yes,
about
yeah,
before?
yeah.
Well, I have a scientific explanation for it. Okay.
I don't
No,
want.
no, no, no. You can correct it. Okay.
Yeah,
Because you put into the spot in my spinal column where the wound was,
yeah.
you placed a cube octahedron of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now finish the sentence.
Yeah.
You did that and
You saw it and you felt it. I mean, you saw it with your third eye. You saw it internally.
yes,
You didn't
yes, I have,
see it in front of you or anything like that. You didn't touch it. You didn't, you know, you knew and felt that it was there. And you
yes.
allowed it to spread its energy along your spine and to heal that area that was there because that's what you had faith in and felt and knew a knowledge within your heart that it was there. Okay. You didn't see it.
No, clearly not.
No, you didn't see it. You couldn't measure it. You you couldn't put if a doctor walked in, there's nothing he could do. He'd look at that, and if he had monitors on it or something, say, "Well, something's definitely happening because this is healing, and I don't know how the hell it's happening because he sees the fibers going together or something." I don't know. He could scientifically maybe see things are starting to happen, but really, how? How can that possibly be? And they have no explanation for it. And what I'm saying is that's in the infinite abundance. That's an infinite possibility that was waiting to happen that you plucked out of consciousness and said, yes, I am with this. Let's do this. And you did. I was just an instrument to present it to you out of infinite abundance. And you said, yeah, okay, that's good. Let's go do this.
But I trusted your credibility and I trusted what a cube octahedron of energy was.
Well,
As
it could
as
look what
that,
it, yeah,
yeah.
you knew it was healing energy, whatever that means. You know, it's
Yep.
like we can pull that out of infinite abundance anytime we want, with an authentic way of faith in feeling and sensation, not a definition. As soon as you get into definition, there's no feeling or sensation or anything like that. It's got to be, in that kind of realm of the heart that just allows you the opportunity to present it to yourself in a way, that is, how would I say, um, a knowing. It's an internal knowing. It's like the intuitive voice we were talking about in another podcast, where you just know, you just know, and everybody has a you just know difference. You know what I mean? Like everybody feels that differently. Everybody experiences that differently. Somebody else asked me to do the same thing for them in a different capacity, and they had um, uh, pneumonia, and it was a pretty bad case. They rushed to the hospital, in the emergency room. The lungs were all filled, and the person called me and said, "Tomei, can we do this?" He's like, "I really believe that we can clear this." I said, "Okay, yeah." I said, and I just did the same thing. I just said, "Imagine for yourself what it feels like to have your lungs clear. Imagine something coming in there to assist you to do it. What might that be? And just know it's real." Same thing I did with you. And they did. The nurse comes back about half hour later and says, "How you doing?" She says, "I feel great." She goes, "What?" "I feel great." "What are you talking about?" She put her stethoscope on his chest. "Wait a minute, this is crazy. I don't hear anything." Couldn't hear the raspy, that kind of thing
Yeah.
that they have, right? She went x-rayed it again. Gone. There's nothing there. He walked out of the hospital and called me immediately, and I'm almost emotional about it right now. He was crying. It's like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I'll never forget this. And I was like, I won't either, because they're all so incredible. That's infinite abundance. That's what's there.
I want to
And
push this one step further as a concluding segment of this session. All right.
sure, yeah,
I'm going to call this self-healing
okay,
because you did something rather magical, rather extraordinary with your knee.
yeah,
That first, okay?
yeah,
I think you should tell that story because there's something you did for yourself in terms of
yeah,
energy, etc.
yeah.
Because I think what's possible for people is to do that same kind of thing once they develop this level of consciousness.
And that's true. And it's not to say that okay, anytime I ask for infinite abundance and to feel and so on, we have to. Um, the hesitation is that this isn't a process that you just do. This is a process where your inner voice says, yes, this can be done. But the inner voice could say no. And you have to accept that just as strongly as a
Mhm.
knowing as the yes. Because the no also is a vital part of infinite abundance. No is still an infinite possibility because that not having it happen is connected to something else you're going to experience down the line that must be experienced so your soul can become whole. You don't know that. But if you trust in infinite abundance and you trust in your heart, in your knowledge that this is a truth, then you don't judge that and say, oh, I'm not worthy. Oh my God, look, I can't heal myself. It's like, no, this is a step that can't take place. Right now that I have a torn tendon, right? I mean, we've talked about this.
Yes.
And so um, not too long ago, Lisa says to me, well, why don't you just heal it? And I said, they've told me that there's something else that has to be done. And she's like, what? And I said, well, they've given me the feeling that there's something else to this, and I'm honoring that. I don't know what that is. I didn't know it was torn at the time. And so I said, I'm just going to wait and go down the path of seeing how this develops, and we'll see what happens. And sure enough, had the MRI and it's torn. And some things you can't just repair after they tear. You have to go in and tie them together. Otherwise, they'll just stay the same, and in some respect. So I understand. There's some things that in some way have to be repaired and done differently in medical science, and there's some things that can be done outside of medical science that is just going to blow people away. That it's like the leprosy things where the Yeshua healed people on the spot. Um, there's just things that infinite abundance has for us, but we also have to allow ourselves to be open to all possibility.
Please let people hear very briefly your own story in how you dealt with the situation you had. Close that loop for us. What did
This
you do about that first major knee injury you had?
um
Bringing yourself back where the doctors couldn't believe it.
yeah, there was just a trust. I'm just going to say, I mean, there was a a uniqueness to it. The voice told me that I didn't understand why I was going through it. I couldn't understand why they were going to take running away from me, all that kind of stuff. And then there was kind of a discourse that took place between me and my guides, and they came in and basically said to me at the time that I hadn't healed myself yet, and it was time for me to experience that. And so I opened myself up to that. At first, I was in shock when they said it, and then I opened myself up to the possibilities of the truth of that, and they proceeded to tell me um, let's just call it a process of doing it. And this was after the operation was successful, and my thigh muscle was brought back down to my kneecap and attached. So I will say to you, and we can get into this next time, that I trusted the voices because I was already in a position to do it. I decided to allow the whole process to take place. After the process was explained to me and how it would look, some of it I wouldn't have known if I hadn't done the work with Dr. Matulich, because some of the principles that they gave to me in the process were part of some of the things that she had taught. And she called me that day, at the end of the day, and told me exactly what they told me on how to heal myself. So not only did they give me a process to do it internally that I already trusted, but they also followed it up with a verification for me to say that this was possible. Not that I didn't trust it, it's just that that's how the intuitive ability that I had reached at that point of trust and honoring and humility with them got to where I was able to put together something that was supposed to take 6 months to heal and heal it in 5 to 6 weeks.
And thank you for saying that. I want to draw the audience's attention to the fact that one of our spirit partners is Alistair Hawkes, and Alistair is carrying out and doing the work of Dr. Matulich in her practice, and she and I have recorded some sessions, and she's going to be doing even more and even more. Bringing awesome. bringing forward this incredible synthesis of spiritual higher wisdom with scientific rigor, and that's the combination that Dr. Matulich brought to me, brought to you, and has brought to Alistair.
And one thing, you're reminding me of something that they're kind of pushing me to say right now. In my journey of experiencing all these things, many things that maybe one day we'll go into some other things too. I was told in the beginning that I was going to feel and experience things. And the gift that they gave me with that was that I would experience these things and I would own them, and I would trust my feelings. I would trust the journey I was on and everything that was happening in the situations in my life and so on. And after I would experience some of these things, I would then get sometimes scientific explanation of the very thing that I experienced telling me that it was real.
Okay.
Dr. Matulich was one of those people who really, I didn't need to be told that I have connections with higher beings, didn't need it. But at the time, because of her work with gamma waves and the equipment that she had, she at first said, I don't believe you have those connections. And I kind of laughed and I said, I don't need you to believe it because I know I do.
Yes, so, good.
And she says, okay, well, let's test you. And so that was one of the weekends I went down to her place and we sat on the machines for meditations and so on and so forth. And then one day she finally just said, she came in and she saw the readouts and said in her great accent, I need to believe you now. And I'm like, what do you mean you need to believe me now? And he says, look here, look at the gamma waves. They go up in perfect synchronicity. They go up in pi ratio perfectly.
Yeah, all this, yeah, right.
And I laughed. I said, I don't care. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. She says, that means you're the only one besides another person she said, at that time, she says, you're the only one I've ever measured that has this besides one other person I measured in Argentina.
Mhm.
So I know it's true. And I kind of laughed and I said, here they are again. I have the experiences. I know they're real. I trust them. I believe in them. And then now I get scientific proof that exactly what was going on is true.
And the good news is that we're bringing that incredible synthesis, that incredible knowledge base to people
Yeah.
through the things that we're sharing here. Okay.
Yeah.
From what you're sharing and what Alistair is sharing, and even my embellishments of some of it, as somebody who benefited from it. Okay.
Yeah.
So for that, I am profoundly grateful. I've said that to her. I say that to you each time.
Yeah.
And I think our audience is really fortunate to have exposure to the two of you and get a no, seriously, and to get acquainted with the depth of what you're both bringing forward. So thank you.
And
I know
yeah,
we'll
I,
continue
I,
the conversations.
I would just say that that everyone out there, I don't know, whoever's listening or whoever will eventually listen to this, you have the same capabilities. It's all there. You just have to do the work and be willing to put yourself, it's that commitment to self. We've talked about that before with the podcast. You must commit to yourself. You must commit to the journey that you can be on that's different than the one you're on, and find the gifts that you hold within yourself, and then project them out to the world, because all of us have such incredible gifts we can give each other, um, from infinite possibility and infinite abundance. It's all there. And I love that the fact that you're putting this together. This will be around for a long time, um, and hopefully those that are ready and willing will hear it. I'm sure they will. The universe will find a way to let them see it, and we will have done a great service for everyone, which is beautiful in my heart. So thank you for doing all this too.
What I'm always heartened by is every time you talk about doing these kinds of things, exercising these kinds of abilities, or whatever it is, it always ends with the phrase, for the benefit of all.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to put this together, and that's what we're going to do together. So
Yeah.
profoundest thanks.
You're welcome.
Jens, thank you. Yet another marvelous conversation. And all I can say is see you next time. And we're going to let Tomei pick the topic instead, instead of Bill. How's that? Okay.
Sounds great to me. Just tell me what you wrote down. That's all.
Thank you all, and
Thank you all.
see you again soon.
See you
Bye
soon.
bye.
Bye.